we have one more coming up because she ties right into what Dr. Menard was just talking about, and that's longevity. Diane Haworth is a longevity researcher. She's a motivational speaker, former newspaper columnist, and she is sports-specific strength trainer, and she has worked with the Navy SEALs. I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but in the United States, that's a tough group of guys, and she kept them all in shape. She and her partner, Michael Verbeck, have been in over 60 countries and have spent the past 15 years in the longevity villages of the world. And she is documenting the lifestyle, their habits, and how these people live through that time frame. She and Michael have dedicated sharing their knowledge and affecting the lives of thousands and thousands of people that they come in contact with. So please give her a warm welcome. Diane Haworth, please come up to the front.
I see how too late.
Thanks, Nick.
Got nothing in my brain.
All right, so been a long, exciting evening, and I'm going to do this really quickly so that I don't keep you here any longer, but I have some stuff to talk about tonight that's pretty exciting. So I will tell you real quickly, that Energizer Bunny named Randy Hood that was on the stage earlier, that was how I first heard about the BEMER. Michael and I were speaking at the World Anti-Aging Congress about 10 years ago, I think it is now. And this gentleman came up afterward and introduced himself and said, I liked what you guys are doing. I completely agree with the work that you're doing and love that you're sharing this message. And we just maintained a friendship. And then in 2016, some exciting stuff happened in the world of longevity, which I'm going to talk about. And right about that time, we got a phone call from Mr. Hood, and he said, hey, I know you're talking about the connection with longevity and microcirculation. Have you heard about this device out of Europe that directly affects microcirculation? And the rest is history. We were extremely excited when we saw what this was and what it could do. And I'm going to try to tie in together for you tonight why I want you to be so excited about it as well. So it's no surprise to all of you where we are today, the state that we're in. There's lots and lots of statistics out there. We've heard some of them tonight. 1 in 3 will develop cancer at some time in their lifetime. Actually, this slide's a little old. It's really 1 in 2 now. 1 in 3 will die from cardiovascular disease, and this is not just unique to the United States. It's unique to North America and actually to Western culture in general. We're seeing as more and more countries around the world adopt the Western lifestyle that we've created. Unfortunately, this is following it as well. More than 1/3 of us will be pre-diabetic or have type 2 diabetes in 2050, not too far from now. And look at the number here. 68% of Americans are overweight. It's happening in Canada too, and 34% obese. So the American Heart Association in 2016 came out and said that diseases really and truly start in the small blood vessels, the diseases of the circulatory system in particular. So when I was 13 years old, I was an Olympic level figure skater, and what was really mattered to me at that time was how I could get the best performance out of my body. Longevity was far thought from what I was thinking about. I just wanted to know how I could get the best performance from my cells, and I wanted to do that in a natural way. I wasn't interested in anything that was made in a lab. At 13, I saw this quote by Jim Rohn, and it really just stuck with me. The importance of the one and only body that we're given. This is the only house we have to live in. So we have to take really good care of it because it's all we've got. So just a little bit of a background. I take a stand to see that everyone understands that by birthright we're entitled to be vibrant and healthy. So what Michael and I do is we traveled around the world to the villages where there has been identified the highest concentration of people living to be 100, 110 and older, and specifically without Western diseases. We look at thousands of elements that factor into longevity. So everything from diet to lifestyle to blood work to what's their proximity to the ocean, what's the air quality where they are, what elevation do they live at. All of these things we're looking at and studying, and we've put together the research, and we speak at medical conferences around the world. Doctors earn continuing education credits on the work that we do. We're in the process right now of getting funding for a documentary on the Hunzas and the Hunza Valley. Have 2 books that are coming out, so very exciting time in longevity. But some of the villages, some of them you have never heard of them, and some of them you may be familiar with from Blue Zones and other things that you've read. Campo de' Mille is a little village in Italy, halfway between Naples and Rome, up in the mountains, about 2,000 feet of elevation. It's a walled city. We did a lot of work there. Odvada and Aurelia on the island of Sardinia, you're probably familiar with that, well known for the resveratrol and the studies that came out of there, and the consumption of red wine, which, by the way, they drink a daily medicinal, like a shot glass of fermented red wine, not like Americans, 2 bottles of red wine. If this much is good, this must much be better. Ikaria, you've heard of that. Simi, another little island in Greece where we did a lot of work. If you notice in some of these photographs, it's interesting too, in a lot of these places, the elevation is significant. So that means these long-living people are getting a lot of movement. Nicoya, Costa Rica, Vilcabamba, which is in Ecuador, we're no longer really considered a longevity spot, really tragic because actually a couple of Western doctors went down there and they thought, well, we could help them live longer if we introduced antibiotics, and we pretty much destroyed their immune system. Yuzuri Haro in Japan, that's on mainland Japan, and it's where all of the information came out on out of the sweet potato, the Okinawan sweet potatoes, and the type of potatoes that are grown up in the mountains here in Yuzuri Haro. Hunza Valley, that's where it's in the Kokoran mountain range, that's where we're wanting to do a documentary next. And if you remember the movie Lost Horizon and Shangri-La and the mythical village where people lived for hundreds and hundreds of years, that was based on the explorer Hilton's findings in the Hunza Valley in 1907. The Ogimi in Okinawa is probably the best known and most widely researched longevity village in the world. We've done a lot of, we've probably been there 18, 20 times now doing our work. And then Acciaroli in southern Italy. Super exciting find in the longevity world. And it's out of this region that the connection comes. For longevity, there are thousands of elements, as I said. We can narrow them down to categories of 9 or 10. And that really, really factor into why some people in some villages are living so much longer and more vibrant than in others. Obviously, connection, community, being part of something greater than yourself really is important. And in the Western world, unfortunately, we've become very isolated. We live a lot of times behind gates, or we live in buildings where we don't even know our neighbors. And that's really important. We're losing that connection, and as you age, it becomes significant if you are not part of something greater than you and part of a community. Diet and nutrition, my opinion, number 1, but it doesn't do you any good if the nutrients that you're taking in aren't getting where they need to go, and you've heard a little bit about that tonight. Mutual aid in Yurimaru. Yurimaru is a Japanese word. We don't have an equivalent in the English language, but really what it comes down to is, Peter kind of touched on this, Peter Klein. It's doing good deeds for other people. It's without the expectation of something in return. And this is present in all longevity villages, but we rarely see that here in North America, and it's something that we need to tap back into. Exercise, movement. You don't need to be a world-class athlete. Long-living people are not. There are no long-living, extreme, ultra-distance athletes in the world. They're not. It's too stressful on the body. Stress comes in many forms, but stress has the same impact on the body. What you do need to do is you need to get out and be in movement. So you need to be walking. The average long-living person walks about an hour a day outside. You know, if you're on your bicycle, that's fine. Just you need to be getting movement. And if you're not, if you live in a place where it's not possible for you to do that, you need to find a way to adapt to that. Your purpose, again, Peter Klein talked about this, your ikigai. It's a Japanese word. It means your purpose, your passion, your reason, your why. If you don't have that in your life, we can help you with that with BEMER, because it's extraordinary what happens when you start sharing this with other people and you see the change that you can make in their health. The environment that you live in geographically, very, very important. Managing stress. You did a beautiful job of talking about stress. Relaxation, sleep, getting to REM. I'm going to talk about that. Really, really important. And unfortunately, because of the lives that we lead in the world that we live in, and all of the environmental factors, very few of us are getting the sufficient REM that we need. Your attitude, your gratitude, your faith, and your plan. Planning to live, not planning to die is something I see over and over again with longest living people. They plan to live. One of my favorite people was Bernardo Apollo. At 111 was when I first met him, and he lived to 114. He had just bought a house, and he said, people ask me, why are you buying a house at 111? And he said, because I'm planning to live, not planning to die. Proper blood flow and microcirculation. Now, until 2016, this wasn't on my list up here, but here is why. Let me go ahead and address this now because I always get this. But genetics, I wasn't born in Italy. So genetics only factor in by about 13%, and they can easily be manipulated. We've done it in some of our studies. You take somebody out of the little village of Campo de' Meli, and you bring them to Boston, and they live in Boston, and guess what? After maybe 10, 15 years go by, they start having all of the Western diseases that we are so familiar with, arthritis, autism, Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, you name it, cancers, they get it. But guess what? If you pick them up and take them out of Boston and you take them back to Campo de' Meli, guess what starts happening? In time, those Western diseases turn around and head in the other direction. If the body is given the proper environment, it can heal itself. Stressors, diet, lifestyle, loss of community, all of these things will factor in genetics. So back to Acciaroli and why this is so exciting. Acciaroli is a little town south of Salerno and south of the Paestum ruins and on the coast of Italy on the Tyrrhenian Sea. I love the photo in the middle here because the very first time that we pulled up there, it was like a scene out of the movie Cocoon. There's this natural harbor right there, and everybody's on the beach, and there's balls bouncing around and people splashing in the water. And as we got closer and closer, we looked and realized everyone has gray hair. These are all people in their 70s, 80s, 90s out there frolicking and looking like it was a group of 20-year-olds. So it was pretty exciting. This region is where the CHOW initiative was conducted. It was a Salento initiative on aging outcome. And why this is just very, very exciting. Why this was done in this area is because it's one of the longest living regions in the world, actually the longest today. So in 2016, 1 in 10 people were over 100 years of age. In a village of 700 people, this is Acciaroli, 700 people, 1 out of every 10 over the age of 100. 20 people in the region of 2,000 people were over the age of 110. We had nothing like that anywhere. Okinawa, not even close. So that's why the study was done there. Highest life expectancy, highest concentration of centenarians and supercentenarians anywhere in the world. Why? Because they have an active lifestyle. Look where they live. The Salento region goes from the sea up to over 2,000 feet of elevation. And really the form of transportation is legs, or some of them have bicycles. Strong sense of community. Remember, we talked about the importance of that, purpose, passion, reason, why, and being part of something greater than yourself. That happens when you're small. And by no coincidence, the Mediterranean diet. 7 clicks down the road, 7 kilometers away from Acciaroli is the village of Piopi. And that's where Ansel Keys did his work on the Mediterranean diet. And then eventually he and his wife moved there. And they lived to the ripe old age of 102. Interesting, because their siblings left back here in our Western world didn't do that. Unique to the Salento region, we kind of covered this. It has to do with their diet. Some of the unique herbs to the area, which is something that we always look at too. Rosemary, they eat rabbit, they don't eat beef. Small, close-knit community. And don't miss the last line. Swimming, walking, biking, and yes, sex. They have a very active sex life late into their years. So remember that. Microcirculation has something to do with that. Salento initiative on aging outcome. Again, this is where it is, down in the boot, very, you can see down there. So, I don't know how to go backwards on here. I clicked one too far. So what came out of the Salento initiative? Thank you. What came out of the CHOW initiative was that for the first time, we found something in the blood that we could identify as unique in these people, that was enabling them to live vibrantly. We can look at all the lifestyle and diet and cultural aspects, things that they do, But we were trying to find something in the blood that would help us to understand, why are these people living so vibrantly and healthy, and why aren't we? For the first time ever, we found a biomarker. A biomarker is just, what is it? It's a biomarker is just really simply something that enables us to measure in the blood overall health, the functional status of our individual organs, and the disease status and progression. So in this particular case, we were measuring hormones, 3 different hormones. We were looking at 3 different functions. So cardiac function, kidney function, and microcirculation. Microcirculation was the one that was really exciting and where we found the biggest measurable change. So what we discovered was bioADM, or adrenomedullin. And adrenomedullin regulates microcirculation because it affects the blood vessels. It affects widening of the blood vessels. It affects the blood vessel integrity. Microcirculation, we've heard that talked about tonight many times, and it's been said in many different ways, but it's so important that I'm just going to touch on it again really quickly. It's the blood flow in the capillaries. You say capillaries, I say capillaries, Canadians, Americans, it's all the same thing. So it's 74% of our circulatory system. We normally think of the heart, the arteries, the veins, arterioles, and venules as circulation, but 74% of circulation is microcirculation. It supplies our tissues and organs with the nutrients and oxygens. It's used to remove metabolic waste. And the blood is moved through them via a vasomotion, an expansion and contraction. Okay, so we've already seen images of this. It's the little tiny in the images there. That's the capillaries. So a state of disease is really simply our cells in a state not of ease, but rather in dis-ease. If a cell is given its sufficient oxygen, proper nutrients, and it is cleansed of its waste, it has no choice. It will begin to heal. So bioADM, back to adrenomedullin. Why is it important that we found that in very low levels in the body of these long-living people? Because in very high levels, bioADM can result in many things we don't want to have happening in the body: shock, systemic vasodilation, drop in blood pressure. But in low levels in the body, when it's found, and this is what we discovered in the longest living people in this region, it was in very low levels. Look what it is. It's an indicator for good microcirculation. We've heard about how important microcirculation is all night long. Well, it means we have well-functioning not only a microcirculatory system, but our endothelial system. We have strong perfusion of organs. We're getting proper delivery of oxygens and nutrients, and we're getting sufficient removal of the waste. With the BEMER, we have the ability to positively affect microcirculation unlike anything else. And it's not realistic to think that any of us can do what Ansel Keys did, or all of us, I guess I should say, pick our lives up and move them to the village of Piopia or Acciaroli and hope that we live longer, knowing what we know. Once you know what you know, and you've been stimulated like you have, and you have access to all these things in the world, it's very difficult to suddenly give up your car, give up your cell phone, give up your computer, try to unknow what you know, and try to find a way to be stimulated by a very, very, very simple life. So if we have to try to adapt in the world that we live in, BEMER is the one thing that we can do on a daily basis to help us do that. For me, the magic of BEMER is this. As a longevity researcher, I can sit down with you and I can give you 1,000 elements to change. And I guarantee you, if you do all of them, you will live longer. I can assure you of that. The problem is that we are creatures of habit. We're human beings. And the most difficult thing to get a human being to do is change a habit. So with the BEMER, here's the magic. You don't have to change the habits initially. So, like Bettina put it perfectly, it's like brushing your teeth twice a day. It's 8 minutes in the morning and it's 8 minutes at the end of the day. You're already in bed. So before you get out of bed, guess what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to be in gratitude, right? Let's do that before you get out of bed in the morning. If you can't find another time to do it, I'll give you 8 minutes in the morning while you're beaming. You can start your day out the right way with the proper attitude. At nighttime, the last thing that you do, lay down, think about how your day went. Think about everything you have to be grateful for again. And get your 8-minute session. Then the last thing you do is you hit the button, just like turning out the light, you turn on the sleep cycle. So it didn't ask you to do anything out of the ordinary or to change any habits. Here is the other thing that's very magical. While you are sleeping, this is so important that your body get to REM. We lead very frenetic lives, so most of us spend a whole lot of time in alpha state, and we need to get from alpha, beta, delta, all the way down to REM, because REM is where the most extraordinary thing ever created on Earth can start to do what it was designed to do, and that is to be in a constant state of repair. Every night when you get to REM is when the organs that are designed to regenerate, to detox, and to deacidify come into play. The BEMER helps facilitate us getting to REM, and then the most amazing thing ever created on Earth can do what it was designed to do. Peter Gleim said it. It's designed to live long and vibrantly. It's designed to heal itself, provided we give it the tools it needs. And in the world that we live in today, this is the only tool that I know of that can help do that. Here's the other thing that's really exciting. So the 10 key elements to longevity, remember I talked about it's so extremely difficult to get somebody to change a habit. Here's what I found that's exciting. When somebody starts using the BEMER, and those of you who have beamed other people, you know what I'm talking about. When the first time they use it and they have something happen, and you see the most amazing thing occur, it's a glinter of hope in their eyes. Hope was lost, and you just helped them find it again. And once they start feeling better, whatever it was that was going on with them, they start feeling better. What I find happens is people who were never ever going to change their diet, who were never ever going to go for a walk around the block, who were never going to listen, who were going to keep smoking cigars and drinking too much red wine, what happens is that in time, even they will start to change because they feel so good and they have that hope again that they're not destined to be in a state of discomfort for the rest of their life. If this can help them feel that much better, what if they did make these other simple little changes? And I guarantee you, we're going to have a massive effect worldwide when Canada joins us and helps us to share the BEMER message. So with that, I want to bring Nick Hewish back up to the stage. Is that correct? Nick, you come back up here. And I want to thank you all for coming. As an expert in the field of longevity, I will tell you that there is only one thing, if I could only pick one thing to tell you today that will help you live a long and vibrant life, it is get a BEMER and start using it every single day and use the sleep cycle. Thank you very much.